Do you realize how much more desirable you become when you stop giving too much of yourself? When you no longer are the one they expect to bend, break, or say yes every time they ask, you become something else entirely, something magnetic. Here's the truth. Setting boundaries isn't about selfishness. It's about being smart. Giving all of yourself doesn't make people love you more. It makes them take you for granted. But when you pull back, when you carve out space for yourself, that's when they start noticing. That's when you become desirable, because suddenly, your time, attention, and presence are no longer guaranteed. And that's the secret. When they can't have you as easily, they start wanting you more. It hurts, doesn't it? That aching feeling of always being the one who gives, hoping someone will finally appreciate the effort. But each time you say yes when you should have said no, a piece of you is lost. You've been pouring so much of yourself into others, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'll do the same. But they don't, do they? They show up when it's convenient for them, when they need something. And here you are, convincing yourself that if you just keep giving, they'll finally see your worth. But the truth? They won't. Not until you stop. Not until you step back and show them what life looks like without you constantly showing up. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about deciding who gets to come in. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. You think that by giving more, they'll love you more. But let me tell you, desire is built on mystery, not availability. People don't crave what they can always have. They want what feels just out of reach. When you're constantly available, there's no room for them to miss you, no space to appreciate what you bring. But the moment you say no, not this time, everything changes. Suddenly, they start noticing what they had taken for granted. They feel your absence, and that's when desire kicks in. It's tough, isn't it? Setting boundaries feels like a risk, like they might leave if you finally stand up for yourself. But the truth is, the people who leave when you set boundaries are the ones who never deserved you in the first place. You've been so afraid that if you stop saying yes, they'll walk away. But what's the point in holding on to people who don't respect you? What are you really holding on to? Fear, loneliness, the hope that one day they'll change. They won't. And you can't make them. Setting boundaries isn't easy. It takes courage. Courage to say, I matter too. Courage to believe that your time, energy, and heart are not things to be handed out freely to people who don't cherish them. And here's the best part. When you start setting boundaries, something incredible happens. The people who never truly saw your value start realizing just how much they need you. That's the paradox. They don't desire what's always there. They crave what challenges them, what makes them work harder. And that's what you become when you set boundaries. A challenge, a mystery, a person worth pursuing. I know it's scary to step back. It feels like you might lose everyone you care about. But setting boundaries isn't about losing people. It's about finding yourself. It's about standing up and saying, I am enough as I am. You don't need to prove it by sacrificing yourself for anyone. The people who truly care will respect your boundaries. And the ones who don't? They were never meant to stay. So stop being afraid. Stop being the one who's always available, always saying yes, always picking up the pieces. It's time to take care of yourself. It's time to let them feel what life looks like without your constant presence. You're not here to be someone's backup plan, afterthought, or convenience. You are here to be cherished, valued, and loved, not for how much you give, but for who you are. And the moment you realize that, everything will shift. The ones who took you for granted will start wondering why you're no longer so available. They'll begin to crave the version of you that knows how to say no. They'll see that your time and attention aren't free, they're earned. And when they earn it, that's when you become desirable, not just someone they need, but someone they want. So here's your challenge. Set the boundary. Take the risk. Say no without explaining yourself. Let them miss you. Let them wonder. And most importantly, let yourself feel the freedom of not needing anyone's approval. Because the moment you do, you'll realize something powerful. The only validation you ever needed was your own. Drop a comment if you're ready to reclaim your worth. Let the world know, I set boundaries because I know my value. Say it. Own it. Make it your new mantra. Watch how quickly things change when they realize they can no longer take you for granted. You are enough. You are worth pursuing. And from this moment on, you will only attract those who respect your boundaries. And instead they expect you think about a relationship where you're always the one to initiate texts, make plans, and be there whenever they need you. It feels Like you're being supportive, but what you're really doing is training them to think you'll always be there no matter what. And when something is always available, it's rarely valued. Here's the challenge: you need to step back, pull your energy inward. It's uncomfortable at first because it feels like pulling away might push people away, but what if I told you that the exact opposite happens when you stop being available all the time? People begin to notice, they miss your presence, they start to wonder what's changed. That's when desire kicks in, when your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. But to create that desire, you need to stay consistent in guarding your time. This isn't just about ignoring texts or making excuses to cancel plans. It's about being intentional. If you're free and genuinely want to connect, go for it. But if you find yourself rearranging your schedule just to fit someone else in, pause, ask is this worth my time, or am I just afraid of disappointing them? The real challenge is letting go of the need to be liked all the time, and that's where the magic happens. People are naturally drawn to those who seem self-sufficient, who don't seek validation by always being available. Think of yourself like a rare book in a library. If it's always sitting on the front shelf, available to everyone, people glance at it and think, I'll read it some other time. But if it's locked away, only accessible for a limited time, suddenly everyone wants it. Your availability works the same way. Too much of it diminishes your value, but when you limit it, you create curiosity, interest, and yes, even longing in a relationship. This looks like giving your partner space to miss you. It's resisting the urge to respond instantly or jump into every conversation if they ask you to meet, but you already have plans. Say no. You don't need to explain yourself. Your time is yours, and when you protect it, you teach them to value it. It's not about punishing anyone, it's about establishing that your life, your time, and your peace come first. Now I get it, it can feel tough at first. What if they get upset? Hello to everyone, I love you. What if they stop reaching out? Those thoughts will come, but you need to remember that true connections grow from mutual respect. If they're only there because you're available 24/7, that's not a connection, it's convenience, and you are not someone's convenience. You are someone worth pursuing, worth waiting for, worth chasing. When limiting your availability feels hard, remind yourself that discomfort is part of growth. Stoicism teaches us that we can't control others, only ourselves. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You control how you spend your time, and if someone can't respect that boundary, they're showing you exactly where they stand in your life. So embrace this step. Fully make peace with the discomfort, because this is where transformation begins. This is just the first step. There's so much more to come. You can't move the needle with just one step, so kill any thought of clicking away. Stay with me, commit to the process, and watch your entire life shift. The ones who once overlooked you will start to crave the version of you who knows how to say no. Drop I stand strong in the comments if you're ready to step into your power. This is just the beginning, and to become the one worth chasing, you need to see it through. Stick with me, because together we're only getting started. Number 3. Speak your needs clearly. If you want people to respect and desire you, you have to speak your needs clearly. Let's get one thing straight. Nobody will magically guess what you want. They won't intuitively know how you need to be treated, or when they've crossed a line and waiting around for someone to just get it only leaves you disappointed, frustrated, and invisible. The truth is, when you communicate your needs with clarity and confidence, you send a powerful message. You teach people how to treat you, and that makes you irresistible. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it best: how long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself? This is where it starts, by learning to ask for what you need without apology or hesitation. You've probably convinced yourself that voicing your needs will make you seem difficult or push people away, but let me tell you something, it's the exact opposite. People crave clarity. When you know what you want and communicate it directly, it shows self-respect and emotional strength that's incredibly attractive. It sets you apart from the crowd of people who settle for less just to avoid discomfort. Think of it like this: boundaries are the blueprint of your life, and clear communication is how you draw that blueprint out for others to see. If you don't express your needs, how can anyone meet them? Imagine you're in a relationship where you always feel overlooked. Maybe your partner makes decisions without asking you, or doesn't give you the time and attention you crave. You tell yourself, they should know what I need by now, but they don't, and every time they miss the mark, it chips away at you. This cycle of unspoken needs creates resentment, and resentment kills desire. But what if instead you had the courage to say, I need quality time with you, it matters to me, and it makes me feel close to you? That small moment of honesty would shift everything. When people know exactly how to show up for you, they have the chance to meet your needs, and in turn they Begin to see your value. Sure, it's not always easy to speak up. The fear of rejection or judgment can be paralyzing. You might feel selfish or think, what if they don't care? But let me tell you, silencing yourself is more dangerous. The longer you suppress your needs, the more invisible you become, and invisibility is the opposite of desirability. It's like watering a plant without ever telling anyone where the roots are. You can't blame them for not nourishing you properly if you never told them what you need. Here's a metaphor for you. Imagine you're driving a car with no road signs, no maps, just hoping your passenger knows exactly where you're going. That's what it feels like to be in a relationship where needs aren't communicated. It's confusing, frustrating, and eventually people just give up trying. But when you set clear directions, people are eager to follow. Because they now know how to keep up with you, you become someone worth investing in because you've shown them the way. Now if you're thinking, but what if they react badly? What if they think I'm being too demanding? Let me hit you with some reality. The wrong people will always make you feel like your boundaries are unreasonable, but that's not a sign to stay quiet. It's a sign to walk away. You are not here to convince anyone to value you. When you voice your needs, the right people will respect them, and those who don't were never worth your time in the first place. This step, speaking your needs clearly, is just the beginning, but it's the foundation for everything else. It's where you start claiming your worth and building the life you deserve. You won't get there by staying quiet. You won't get there by hoping people figure you out. You'll get there by standing strong in what you need and making it known. This is the kind of clarity that doesn't just make you desirable, it makes you unforgettable. Number 4, stop chasing people's approval. The moment you stop chasing approval is the moment everything changes. When you rely on others to validate your worth, you're handing them power over your emotions. You twist yourself into someone you're not, just to be liked, to feel accepted, to belong. But here's the truth: the more you chase people's approval, the more distant they become. No amount of people-pleasing will make them value you the way you deserve. And ironically, the less you care about their approval, the more desirable you become. When you constantly seek validation, you send a message that you doubt your own worth. People can feel that insecurity. They sense that no matter how little they give, you'll still be there begging for a sliver of their attention. Approving seeking isn't attractive, it's exhausting, and the sad reality: when you're always available, people stop appreciating your presence. They stop respecting your time, and they start taking you for granted. So what happens when you stop chasing? Everything shifts. Suddenly they're not so sure about you. Your absence makes them curious. Your silence makes them question what's changed. When you stop running after them, they begin to wonder if they've lost something valuable. And that's the secret. Approval is a magnet that works in reverse. The harder you chase it, the further it slips away. But when you pull back, people start chasing you. Here's the thing: seeking validation is a habit born from fear. The fear of rejection, abandonment, or not being good enough. You believe that if you just try harder, they'll finally see your worth. But let me tell you something important: the right people don't need to be convinced to stay. The ones worth having in your life will appreciate you without you constantly proving yourself. The moment you stop chasing is the moment you make room for genuine respect and connection. Shifting out of the approval-seeking mindset takes practice, but it starts with one thing: prioritizing your own peace. When you say no to others and yes to yourself, you begin to realize that your value isn't tied to what others think of you. The only approval you need is your own. The right people will respect your boundaries, and those who don't, they were never meant to stay. It's okay to feel uncomfortable when you first stop chasing approval. You might worry that people will leave, and some will, but the ones who stay will be there because they respect you, not because you begged for their attention. This is your power. When you stop looking for external validation, you show the world that your worth isn't negotiable. You don't need to beg for respect. It comes naturally when you stand firm in your boundaries. Here's your affirmation: I don't chase, I attract. Write it in the comments. Say it until you believe it. Your worth doesn't come from anyone else's opinion. It comes from within. When you stop chasing approval, you become the one others want to pursue. Number 5, enforce consequences. Setting boundaries without enforcing consequences is like locking your door but leaving the key under the mat. If you don't follow through when someone crosses your line, they'll assume your boundaries are just suggestions, not rules. People learn how to treat you based on what you tolerate, and the truth is, without consequences, boundaries lose their power. Enforcing consequences isn't about being harsh or vengeful. It's about showing others that your limits are non-negotiable and that respecting you is the only option. When someone violates your boundary, how you respond tells them everything. If you ignore it, they'll test the waters again, but if you hold them accountable, they'll understand that access to you isn't free. Think of Consequences as a mirror, they reflect your self-respect. The stronger the consequence, the clearer the message you send. I value myself too much to allow this, and guess what? That makes you more desirable. People respect what they can't control, and they'll admire your strength when they realize you stand firm. Here's the thing: enforcing consequences feels uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to avoiding conflict. You might fear that if you push back, people will leave or become upset, but ask yourself, what's more important, keeping peace with others at the cost of your peace, or standing up for yourself and teaching people how to treat you? The discomfort is temporary, but the effect you gain from it is lasting. One of the most common reasons people don't enforce consequences is fear of rejection. Maybe you think, what if they get mad? What if they leave? But here's a reality check: anyone who leaves because you enforce a boundary was never truly invested in respecting you. The ones worth keeping around will adjust. They'll respect your space, your time, and your rules because they understand that relationships built on respect are the only ones that last. Enforcing consequences also shifts the power dynamic in your favor. It reminds others that you're not someone to be taken lightly, whether it's as simple as walking away from a conversation when someone speaks to you disrespectfully, or as serious as ending a relationship when your boundaries are repeatedly crossed. Following through shows you mean business, and people are drawn to that kind of self-assuredness. When they know you won't stick around for mistreatment, they'll start working harder to stay in your good graces. Here's a crucial tip: your consequences should match the violation. If someone constantly disrespects your time by canceling plans last minute, don't bend over backward to reschedule. Let them feel your absence. If they cross emotional boundaries by speaking to you in ways that hurt, make it clear that you won't engage until they learn to communicate respectfully. Small, consistent actions teach people that your boundaries are real and that there's a cost for crossing them. It's also essential to stay consistent. If you enforce consequences sometimes but not always, people will think you're bluffing. Consistency is what makes your boundaries strong and dependable. When others know you'll follow through every time, they'll quickly learn that the only way to stay in your life is by respecting your limits. Here's a powerful affirmation: I stand by my boundaries and I enforce them without fear. Write it in the comments and make it your reminder every time you feel tempted to let something slide. Following through isn't always easy, but it's necessary. When you respect yourself enough to enforce consequences, you show others how to respect you too. In the end, enforcing consequences isn't just about teaching others, it's about teaching yourself that you are worthy of respect, peace, and meaningful connections. So stop fearing what you might lose by setting limits. Start focusing on what you gain: self-worth, confidence, and relationships built on mutual respect. And that, my friend, is where your true power lies. Number 6. Prioritize yourself first. When was the last time you put yourself first? Be honest. How often do you sacrifice your time, energy, or happiness just to meet someone else's needs? You keep telling yourself it's what good people do, being there for others, staying available, always putting everyone else first. But here's the hard truth: if you keep pouring from an empty cup, you'll end up exhausted, resentful, and invisible. You can't expect others to value you if you don't value yourself. Prioritizing yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. And when you happiness isn't about just staying in someone's orbit. And here's where it gets real: those who benefit from you always putting them first will resist your change. They'll label you selfish and try to guilt you into reverting to your old ways because they preferred the version of you that gave without limits. But here's what you need to understand: their discomfort is not your responsibility to bear. Your job is to take care of yourself, not manage other people's expectations of you. You cannot pour from an empty cup. When you make yourself a priority, you refill that cup. Whether it's setting aside time for yourself, pursuing your passions, or establishing boundaries, self-care is not a luxury, it's essential. It gives you the energy to show up in the world as your best self, and when you're at your best, those around you benefit too. Think of it like this: prioritizing yourself makes you more valuable, not less, because it demonstrates that you have enough self-respect to demand the same from others. When you begin to prioritize yourself, you'll notice something powerful: people start treating you differently. Those who once took you for granted will either rise to meet your standards or fall away, and that's perfectly okay. You'll attract those who appreciate your worth, not just those who seek to take advantage of your kindness. Your time, energy, and peace are limited resources, and not everyone deserves access to them. Here's the beauty of putting yourself first: it grants others permission to do the same. When you prioritize yourself, you inspire others to set boundaries, prioritize their peace, and stop seeking external validation. You become an example of self-respect, and that's attractive. People are drawn to those who know their value and live accordingly. You stop being an afterthought and become someone people admire and want to be around. Prioritizing yourself doesn't mean neglecting others or shutting them out. It means knowing when to say no, when to take a break, and when to walk away from situations or people that drain you. It's about understanding that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. You are not here to be anyone's emotional caretaker or safety net. You are here to live a life that honors your goals, your peace, and your happiness. At first, it might feel strange, almost like you're doing something wrong. But let me tell you, it's not wrong to put yourself first. It's liberating. And as you grow more comfortable with this mindset, you'll notice a shift in how people respond to you. They'll start to see you as someone who respects themselves, someone who's unafraid to demand the same from others. That's where true desirability stems from, not from bending over backward to please, but from standing tall in your worth. So here's the challenge. Prioritize yourself today. Say no to something that drains you, take a break without feeling guilty, and do one thing just for you, without apologizing for it. Write this affirmation in the comments and make it your new mantra. I prioritize myself because I deserve peace and happiness. Say it, own it, and live it, because the moment you put yourself first, you set the standard for how others should treat you. The ones who respect that are the ones worth keeping in your life. Prioritizing yourself doesn't push people away. It attracts those who see your value. It shows the world that you're not afraid to take care of yourself, and that's where your power lies. So stop waiting for permission to live the life you deserve. Choose yourself every time, because you are worth it. Now, let's talk about creating mystery by guarding your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your time, emotions, or thoughts. When you give too much of yourself too soon, you lose your mystique, and with it, your desirability. Creating mystery isn't about playing games or being distant. It's about protecting your energy and being intentional about who gets to know the real you. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. When you guard your energy, you become someone others are curious about, someone they want to know more deeply. That's where the magic of attraction happens. Think of it this way: if everyone knows everything about you from the start, where's the intrigue? The more accessible and open you are with just anyone, the less special your presence becomes. But when you start being selective, sharing only what you choose to, when you choose to, you become someone others can't quite figure out. People desire what they can't fully grasp. They are drawn to depth and complexity, to layers they have to earn the privilege to uncover. When you guard your energy, you're not shutting people out. You're setting the stage for meaningful connections. You're showing others that your time and attention are valuable and not given freely. In a world where everyone is vying for attention, this sets you apart. People start wondering what's on your mind, why you aren't always available, and what makes you so at peace with being on your own. That curiosity is powerful. It pulls them closer, making them want to know you even more. Here's the truth: over-explaining yourself, constantly justifying your actions, or sharing every thought with everyone drains your energy and makes you predictable. But when you leave space for others to wonder, to miss your presence, you shift the dynamic in your favor. Instead of chasing people or trying to prove your worth, you make them realize they have to work to earn your trust and attention. The most magnetic people aren't the ones who are always available. They're the ones who know when to pull back. They create moments of absence, moments where others are left thinking about them, wondering what they're up to, and wanting more. This isn't manipulation, it's self-respect. It's about knowing your energy is precious and choosing to invest it only where it's reciprocated.